Hi, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies, and this is a Beiter Plunger. Now, arguably, and especially according to Beiter, these are the best in the business as far as recurve arrow rest plungers. The Beiter Plunger, it's been literally the same ever since I was a kid, so unchanged forever, and it would account for maybe 99% of top recurve archers use this plunger. Okay, so you could argue there's some other plungers better, but look, this is what everyone uses. I use this plunger, and to start with, I use cheap plungers, and then my staff basically convinced me to buy one. I was like, okay, I'll buy one, and I'm like, oh, this thing's fantastic, right? So I'm not saying that to just impress Beiter, Andre at Beiter, but it is a really good product, and I should have got one sooner, right? So but I didn't know. I didn't really want to spend a whole bunch of money. So this gets to the purpose of this video. So yesterday, people were showing me the Hoyt Plunger. And I was like, what is this? Is it the same as this, or is it something different? So it's basically got Beiter in the name with a little Hoyt under it. So basically, to me, it's the same plunger with a little bit of writing under it which says Hoyt. Okay, so it's like, okay. Now a whole bunch of other companies do the same thing. I'm going to go QAD do it, and I've got an arrow rest with my name on it. It's a thing that happens, okay? And for that little bit of writing, they generally don't charge you too much. But in Australia, when we looked up the price, it was 50% more expensive for the Hoyt version than the standard Beiter one, right? 50% more expensive. So I was like, well, this got me to do a bit more research, and hence the purpose of this video. So the Beiter Plunger. In America, the Hoyt version is $10 US more than the Beiter Plunger. Okay, so it's like, well, you've got a little bit of writing, $10 extra. I understand $10. I understand that. So basically, if you want a little bit of writing, $10. I don't know why you want $10 on there. I don't know why you want the Hoyt logo. I understand if you're a Hoyt dealer having the Hoyt Plunger button because you buy it from Hoyt as opposed to buying from Beiter. I understand that because that way you don't want to deal with overseas companies. And most US companies, I say archery companies, don't buy from overseas companies. They only buy in the US because they don't want the hassle. Okay, so I understand that, right? In Australia, 50% more expensive for the Hoyt. So I was like, okay, like what's happening here? You know, so let's do a bit of research. So I did a little bit of research. In America, the Beiter Plunger sells for, let's just pull a number out the air and I'll pull the screen up there, about $150 US. Now in Australia, that relates to, let's say, $240 in Australian dollars terms. In Australia, the Beiter Plunger sells for about $170. That's Australian dollars, so around 120 US. So what you're seeing in the US is you're seeing some markup occur because US companies don't like the hassle of importing from overseas. Okay, that's my impression, and they're marking up for the hassle of doing so. So basically what it's saying is if you live in the USA, you're not going to be bothered to go to Europe or go to Australia or go to England to buy a Beiter Plunger. You're going to buy it from one of the local guys and you're going to pay extra for it, right? So that's the way it is. In Australia, we're used to just buying everything overseas. So here the markup's not that great. And as a result, the price is lower in Australia for Beiter Plungers than in the US. Now that makes complete sense to me. Now on the Hoyt Plunger, why is the Hoyt Plunger so expensive in Australia compared to the Beiter Plunger? It's because Beiter will send them to Hoyt. Hoyt then mark up the price because they've got to import it and they mark up the price, and then it comes into Australia. So you've got two lots of freight and you've got extra profit margin being built in there. So it's not coming directly from Beiter into Australia. So you've got that extra cost. So I thought that was interesting. Now, in some cases, pricing in Australia is really, really cheap compared to the US. And I'm going to say the Matthews title, I've already done a video on that. That was really, really cheap. But I'm getting the sense that if ever a product is made outside of the USA, So made in China, made in Europe, made in Germany, made in France, made in Italy, then generally the pricing in Europe, UK and Australia will be significantly cheaper than the US because everyone in the USA is not importing from those countries. So I'm just going to put that out there. So I'm going to say if you're a shop in the USA, I would fully recommend getting in contact with Beiter and the other overseas people who make archery gear and importing it into your shop. I absolutely recommend this. Like one of my friends just set up an archery shop in America. I'm going to do a video on that because they're marking up a huge thing. Importing from Beiter is easy. They are fantastic to deal with. They're really, really fast and the freight is not too bad, right? It's pretty good. So some companies are a nightmare. So I had one the other day in America and the freight, they're like, so I paid for the order. It was $3,500 US, and I was like, "Can you please quote me? Can you please quote me for freight?" And they said, "We don't have the time to do that. So you don't have time to quote for freight. So I have to organise the freight myself, and it's only a small box. The box is only yay big, and my freight quote for this box this big. So it was 10 kilos, 9 kilos, 20 pounds." And it was like a ruler by a ruler, so 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters, or 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches, was $760 US, so about 1,000 Australian dollars to get that box into Australia. Now, I normally shift bows, which are probably a similar size, into Australia for about $100 a box. So freight always gets down to what deals you've got with the various companies. And I get asked every day, why does freight vary so much? And it varies on a day-by-day basis. It varies on which company you use. It varies on what freight rates you have with that company. The variation is massive. And that's with inside a country and outside a country. And then you can get hit with extra fees. So it's not like, well, it costs $700 US. No, there will be extra charges when it hits into Australia as well. So just bear that in mind. Anyway, Beiter is really, really good to get stuff. And if you're in America and you've got a shop in America, I know you don't sell lots of target gear. Maybe you're in Canada. I know you don't sell lots of target gear there. It's mainly hunting. But I'm telling you, there's a massive market here because no one does it. And if no one does it, well, then I would do it because then all the shops will come to you. And you're like, well, I've got to compete with Lancaster. And you absolutely could because the pricing you could compete with. Okay? It depends, like, I'd prefer to compete with one shop than the 100 which might be in your area which don't handle all the stuff from overseas. And if you carried the stuff from overseas, from Beiter, I'm going to say Yuka and all the other companies, then you'd have a huge advantage and all the customers will come to you because you have a much wider range that the other shops don't have. That's my experience. Anyway, Beiter, it's a fantastic product, the Beiter Plunger. And if you're buying the Hoyt Plunger, well, $10 in the US, but if you buy them in Australia, well, I'm not going to say what I think, but anyway, if you're buying them in Australia and you're paying 50% more, good on you. Thanks for watching. Bye.